one with the four.
So you have 5.
Yeah, so the one who has one, the youngest, I babysit every Wednesday.
Oh.
That's why I didn't want you to come on Wednesday. Because
I can understand
yeah,
that.
Yeah, so
That's a lot of work for you, though, isn't it? Taking care of a
one
little
day
baby.
I look forward. It's really a treat. It's really a treat. If it would be more, it would be difficult. But one day it's a treat.
And she's 2.
He.
Oh, it's a he.
He's
This
two
is
and a
not.
half. 2.5.
I thought this was Raquel.
No, Raquel is from the one who has 4. They followed our footsteps.
August 3rd, 1995. Survivor Barbra Frohlinger. Maiden name Bella Klein. Interviewer Lisa Timoner. City Boca Raton in the state of Florida. Country USA. Language English. Tape 1. My name is Lisa Timoner. Today is August 3rd, 1995, and I'm in Boca Raton, Florida, interviewing survivor of the Shoah, Barbra Frohlinger. Mrs. Frohlinger, when were you born and where were you born?
I was born June 19, 1929 in Benedeki, Czechoslovakia.
Was that near any big city?
No, it was a very small little town.
Near anything that?
Munkac was the closest, biggest city. And we were 6 children, 4 boys and 2 girls. And
what were their names?
The oldest was Sina, and we call him here in America Bill. He came back. He's the only one who came back. The next one is Shia, and then my sister Helena, and then I came. I was the 4th. And then we had 2 more, 2 little brothers, Cheskel and Shmuel.
And your parents?
My parents, my father's name was Bill Bernard, and my mother's name was Lenke, Leah in Yiddish.
What did your father do for a living?
We had a lot of land, and that's what we made a living. We had people who worked on percentage, and
was it a farm?
Like a big farmer. Yeah, farm.
Raising
wheat and corn, most of that. And my mother was a housewife, and we were a very happy family, and very close, except in the end it was very, very bad when the war started. My mother was the greatest person in the world. She was always trying to help people for sick and homeless, and she was always there to help out. And she kept together the family, like the uncles and the aunts, made always peace. And we used to get together every Saturday, go to my grandmother, and she, when it started, when they used to take away the men, the young men, to forced labor camp, she always worried about the young mothers who had babies and they were left alone without husbands. So my sister and me, we used to go to stay with these ladies overnight. They shouldn't be alone. And we didn't like it. We really didn't like it. That meant in the dark to go with a night lamp. We had that, and come back, and it was still dark, and it was cold winter time. But we never said no, because my mother used to say, How could you leave a young person there alone with a new baby if something happens? And so we understood and we went.
What
And
years were those? How old would you have been?
In 1943, 1943, and the 1943. And she was very respectful. Everybody respected her very much. If there was any problem, they always came to her. And if they wanted anybody an opinion, they came to her. Like for an example, from one of these ladies who we used to go to sleep, it came a black letter to the rabbi that he's missing. He's missing or he's dead. The rabbi didn't know what to do. To go and tell this young wife with the baby. So the rabbi sent his daughter to my mother. I'll never forget that. They went in a room by themselves, and I guess the rabbi's daughter explained and asked, because this person was related to my mother also. So my mother gave him advice not to tell her. It wouldn't help. She has to raise a baby, and it wouldn't help if she'll know now. She took away that letter and she hid it. And she didn't tell nobody, except when when they took us together. She told us, to the two girls, that there is a letter from this person who is missing, and she felt that she shouldn't know it. But the nicest part, in the end, he came home. And she went away with the baby to the gas chamber, of course, like everybody else, and never knew, never had that heartbreaking that her husband is not alive. It was a mistake, something. So things like that, for an example, I could, I don't want to, that's only one thing I mentioned, that's what a person she was. And my father was very learned and Jewish. He went to yeshivas in the big cities, and he was very learned. I mean, the rabbi always asked him to help out with any shalas, And
you were a very religious family then.
Yes, Orthodox. But the thing is, my mother was more religious than my father, because my father knew more. My mother, if they told her this, so she kept everything very, very strict. Like, we couldn't even comb our hair with a comb. We had to use a brush, because a comb breaks the hair and a brush doesn't. And we had a very religious house.
What was Shabbat like in your house?
Oh, the men always went to shul. And you're asking that. That's the only nice thing I remember, being happy, because it wasn't too long that my mother was very sad all the time when it started. When, like for the Saturday morning, all the boys and my father went to shul, and the two girls, the two of us, and my mother stayed home, and she used to sing for us, and we used to dance. And that's the nicest thing I don't think.
It's okay.
I'm all right. And then after, she was very, very sad always, because once they started to take away the young men, like her brothers, she had three brothers, and they took them away all to forced labor camps. So she got very, very sad. And then this one brother, the oldest, also they took him away. And all kind of problems. There was not much food, but she always shared whatever she had. She shared with poor and homeless people and family.
And when you were little, your grandparents, you had all four of them?
No, I only remember one grandmother. And she didn't live with us, she lived with another uncle. But in the ghetto, she was with us.
What was school like?
Oh, school, we went to school a half a day. And only up to 6th grade over there in that little village. After then, they didn't let us go further. The Jewish kids couldn't go further.
The other children did?
My oldest brother went to a bigger city, to Munkachewa, and he went in gymnasium, I mean they call it, it's like, high school and further up. And once they didn't he had to stop also. They didn't let the Jewish kids go.
But the non-Jewish children continued school?
Not in the small village. We only had until 6. You had to go out of the little village.
Did you have Jewish friends and non-Jewish friends? Or?
Mostly Jewish friends. I was friendly with Goyish, non-Jewish kids in the school. We had, with a few that I was friendly, but mostly outside we were Jewish kids. And our social life was we sewed our own dolls and doll clothes, and then later on, when we got bigger, we just took walks together, Shabbos afternoon, and that was our social life. Nothing.
Was your neighborhood basically Jewish?
That street, yes. There was one street was all Jewish. And
so your friends were basically from there?
Right. And we were around 20 kids in that age, and only about 3 of us, or 4, were left, came back from that group. Yeah, so I consider myself very lucky to be here. And my father was in the First World War, and he was 7 years in Siberia, in prison, 7 years. My grandparents didn't know about him. He, for a while, and then he wrote, I had one uncle in this country, the United States, and he wrote here, and from here, this uncle let my grandparents know that he's alive and he's in prison. And then when he came home, he was really sickly, but he was a happy man. He always sang for us, and Friday after the meal, he used to always tell us stories, what he went through, and all kinds of stories. The candlelights burned out, and we were still sitting in the dark and telling us stories. So it wasn't easy for him. He went through a lot of not nice times.
And he saw his sons go off to forced labor camps? Did any of his sons?
One, the oldest, the one who came back after the war. That's the only one who was in that age. The others were younger.
Did you know where he went when he went away?
Not really. We had an address because when they took us together, we wrote a postcard that we are leaving town. And I don't recall if he ever got it, but I know we had an address where to write. And he came back, one of the first ones, when he went back home.
After the war?
After the war, yes. But he was the first one.
What was the first signs of danger that you remember in your town?
Well, I was too young. I mean, I heard people were talking here and there, but I wasn't really concerned because I didn't understand it. I didn't know. The only one time when already when they started to take away to the forced camp, labor's camp, and I knew that it's something wrong. And then, of course, when they took us together to go to the ghetto.
And when was that?
1944 in April. The last holiday was on Pesach when we were all together, and it was bad, very bad. We were interrupted for the Seders. Yes, the genders came in. And then 3 days after, they took us together. And
the Hungarian gendarmes
yeah, the Hungarian.
came in during your Seder?
Yes. And they were looking for something. They weren't nice. They were just looking for some trouble, you know, just to interrupt you, to make you afraid, to make you scared, you know. And we were shaking. I don't have to tell you.
It was your mother, father, you, your sister.
Yeah.
How many brothers?
All of us.
Three brothers?
Except one brother
Yeah.
was missing. We were all together then.
About how old were the boys in 44?
The boys were, wait a minute, now I have to think.
You were born in 29.
At 29, and then I was the middle one. So I think around 18.
Teenagers.
No, 21, the brother who went to forced labor camp. And then 18, 16, and then I was 14, and the two younger ones.
So they interrupted Seder. Did they leave you then? Or leave
They
you?
left, yeah, and then we find out the last day of Passover that they starting to get us together to go to the ghetto, and like after Passover they tried to bake some bread, and we didn't even put away the Passover dishes anymore, and they took us in a school, and we were going around, they were counting us, and then they took us on a...
So you walked to the school?
Yeah, it was very close.
Close. And they were taunting you, did you say?
They were counting us
counting.
again. Yeah, they were counting us. And when they took us away, my sister was a very beautiful girl, and one of the gendarmes says, "Why don't you don't look Jewish. You could hide. You could run away." I don't know if he said it sarcastically, but I remember that. And of course, she wouldn't go, and we didn't know. But my brother, the second oldest, he and another friend picked themselves up, and they went in the woods. They figured they're going to hide, and they'll go, you know. But the next day, they stayed over one night. Next day, they came back, and they wanted to be with the family. So we went all together.
So you were in the schoolyard at the
yes,
time?
Yes, and then they put us in wagons. There was no cars, and they took us to Munkac, to the ghetto. And over there was very, very terrible, because we didn't have what to eat, and a mother to watch children that they're hungry and they cry, especially the two younger ones. It was very heartbreaking. And then we were like in the...
Who'd you live with there?
We were together in a brick factory. It was, you know, no windows, no nothing, just very dark, like in the first floor. And we were on top of each other, you know, one next to the other, very, very close, crowded. And we were like in the first row, and they used to punish whoever needed to be punished. We always was in front of us, and we couldn't help it see it, and it was a horrible, horrible experience, these heavy men, middle-aged, they were chasing over ropes. You know, they had to jump over ropes, and if they couldn't jump, they hit them.
Who was
These
hitting them?
people must do something they didn't like about them, something they said.
Was it
something.
Hungarians?
Yes,
Oh.
the Hungarian genders. Something they said wrong, something. They were business people, they were rich people, but most of them were rich people. And then after a little while, we were there, they started to take us to Auschwitz. And
How long were you in the ghetto?
a few weeks, about 6 weeks maybe. Then also we started to stand in line, and they told us not to take too many things, only a few belongings. No feather pillows or anything. We should leave everything there. So we had a 72-year-old grandma with us. And as you know, I told you about my mother. So we had a baby pillow, the smallest there could be. She put it in a knapsack for my second oldest brother who was with us. And we were in the line, and the gender was going, you know, looking back and forth. He picked on him, he should open the knapsack, and he found that little pillow. So he took him out in front of all the people in the line, and he started to beat him. Beat him, hit him. My father couldn't take it, and he screamed out and said, "It's enough, stop it." He stopped. He says, "Okay, I'll stop, but instead him, you come next." He took him, my father, and we had to watch that. That is never could go out from your mind, because it's your loved ones. He started to beat my father. Then
What was he using to beat him?
these sticks, what they were walking with. They always walked with a, I don't know what you call them, but it's a very leather stick or whatever. It hurts when you get hurt. My grandmother saw that, and she collapsed and died. She died right there, and they took her away right away. And we had to keep on going. Then he stopped with my father too, and we went in the trains, in the cattle trains.
They just carried your grandmother away?
Away.
In front of you?
Yeah. We don't know where or what, but they carried her away.
Whose mother was this? Was this your
that
mother's
was
mother?
my mother's mother.
What did your mother do?
Well, my mother went to pieces, of course. So, you know, you sit shiver, right, after somebody dies. By the way, a Red Cross wagon took her away. They made believe, you know, they put on a Red Cross.
Like they were doing something kind?
Yeah. But we never find out where she was buried or anything. We never find out. So in the trains, in the closed cattle wagons, my mother tried to sit shiver, you know, you sit in the shiver. And you couldn't, it was horrible. We were in these trains 3 or 4 days, no food. You couldn't, and the middle was to expose yourself, and it was just horrible. And my father knew, somehow he looked out at little windows through that wagons, and he must have recognized places or what, but he didn't. He said that we're not going to a good place. It's bad. And in these wagons, if somebody sit down, you had to stand up. That's how there was no room. Then finally we got to Birkenau, and my father said the Shema. He knew that we are finished. He didn't say it. He said something to us, and I'll I can't remember, and I don't know, but he did got us together and said something to us, and I don't know what.
You mean
It's just
like
away
goodbye?
yeah, it's just away from my, completely away. I don't know what he said. I remember he said something, that I do remember, he said the Shema. That's, you know, the last prayer
Yes.
before you die. He said that to us, and we went out of the wagon, and of course the men went separate, and the women went separate with the small children. So my mother and the two small boys, and my sister and me went separately. And when we came, to the, what they did between the women, you know, we was with the mother. So they said there was Dr. Mengele was his name. That time we didn't know, but it was a whole bunch of people, actually some of the prisoners too. And he said, this Mengele, you go left and you go right, you know, the people who could go still to work went right, and others went left.
But you didn't know then, of course, where you
No,
were
we
going.
didn't know. But I wanted to go, so my mother went one way with the two boys, and I kept on running back 3 times. 3 times I ran to my mother, and one of the men, the prisoner, kept on pushing me to the other side. He kept on pushing me there, and I was so angry. I remember that too good. But at least I had my sister with me. So I went with my sister, and my mother went straight to the gas chamber. And we went the other side, and they shaved us, and they took off all our clothes, and they gave us new clothes, just a dress. That's it. No underwear, no nothing, just one dress. And we were all shaved. And when the same day, I couldn't recognize my sister. My sister was right next to me in the side, and I was hollering for my sister, where are you, where are you? And she says, I'm right here. I couldn't recognize her.
Did she recognize you?
Yeah, I mean, she was right me, but for a second, everybody looked the same, and I got panicky where she is, because I didn't want to lose her. That's all what I had then. And she was right there. And after that, they put us in a barrack. And
August 3rd, 1995, interviewing survivor of the Shoah, Mrs. Frohlinger. Mrs. Frohlinger, tape 2. Mrs. Frohlinger, you just had arrived at Auschwitz and have been shaved, and now you're...
It was late in the afternoon, and they took us to a barrack. And there was bunk beds, and my sister and I were together, but there was about 8 or 10 people in one bunk bed. When one turned one way, the other one had to turn the same way. There was no room really, like herrings. We were all together, and it was very, very strange in the beginning. And of course, we were looking and hoping to see my mother and the rest. And then older people who were there already for a while, they, when we asked, where the rest of them went, and they were